of the Financial Armor Show. My name is Jose Rodriguez, investment advisor here at Cooper Financial. Here with your host for today, and with my co-host Tony Shore. How you doing, Tony?
I am great. Thanks, Jose. Great to see you again. Did a couple shows with Brad, and now you're back.
I'm back.
You're back, back in action. Good to see it. Yeah, I've been great. I'm up here in Minnesota, and we had a lot of snow about a week ago, and now we're going to hit 70 this week. So very excited about that. Excited that spring is finally here. I might have to break out the short pants, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yep.
And then your time to come visit us has run out, because from now till the rest of the probably year, probably not until October, November, it's going to be hell over here from how hot it is. And what's
Well,
really
heat
funny,
wise. Yeah.
yeah, right. What's really funny is that we had Cole, one of strategic partners as far as with Gradient, to come and film us.
Yeah, our
And
videographer from
yes,
Gradient. Yeah, Cole,
yes.
great guy.
And it was when he got here, he must have brought the weather from Minnesota, because when he got here, it was raining, it was cold, it was in the 40s. I mean, that's cold. But he brought the bad weather from Minnesota, and honestly, we were worried that the weather was gonna get in the way of our grand opening, and thankfully, it didn't.
That's good. And speaking of the grand opening, let's talk about that. You guys moved into new offices, and you had a big grand opening celebration. I know Cole was there to do some filming. How did that go?
It was it probably could not have gone any more perfect.
That's awesome.
The weather, it stopped raining, I think 6 a.m. That day.
Oh,
So
wow.
and the sun came out blasting, and it pretty much dried everything up. There was no puddles or anything, but it was raining for the last 24 hours. And it seemed
Wow.
like it just stopped. And the event was outside. I don't know if you knew that, Tony.
Yeah,
But
I
it
did.
was outside. We had some food trucks. The food trucks were a big hit.
Oh, I
We
bet.
ran out of food of one of them, and then we almost ran out of the other one, which was I think barbecue was the big winner
Oh, yeah.
on everyone
Usually
really
is.
liked it. And
Yeah.
then we had ice cream, we had a
Wow.
magician, we had some games, we played a little bit of cornhole.
Wow, that's
Uh,
fun.
and yeah, and it was really nice because some clients brought their kids or their grandkids, and it was really nice to see them running around play with the games, because usually most people weren't playing.
Sure, the older adults don't
Yep.
play, and the retired folks,
Yes.
where seniors aren't going out there and
Mhm.
usually partaking of that. So it's good they brought the whole family.
Yes.
Good turnout then, right?
Yes, we got I think maybe between, I would say, 100 to 150 people showed up.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
really good.
And driving all around from all the way to from Tucson, from Florence. There's people drove a little bit to get to us. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
pretty
Well,
amazing.
I was thinking about coming, and it was nice of Brad. He invited me, but I didn't make it. It's quite a haul. Would have had to fly in there. But I know some
Yeah.
people from up here in the
Yeah.
Gradient Investments and Gradient offices did fly down just to be at your open house, didn't they?
Yes.
That's nice.
Troy was here. I was hoping that maybe Chuck Lucius would
Oh,
have made
Chuck
it.
Lucius, the owner of Gradient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Troy McGravy was there. Was Troy McGravy there?
McGravy?
Yeah.
Does he know you call him that?
I'm not sure, but you should call him that.
Okay.
His
Yeah.
real name is McCready, but I like to
Yes,
call him
just so everyone
McGravy.
knows.
If you know him, McGravy fits, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like calling me McPizza. It fits, right? Yeah, right. So Jose, that's great. You had a good time at the party and it went well. I bet people were impressed with the new offices, including the recording studio that you've got there. You're in your new podcast and video studio there. That's
Yeah.
great.
What was really funny is that after the event, someone emailed us, said, "Hey, where'd you get that? Where'd you get these panels?" That
Sure.
because
Yeah.
apparently they're trying to add it to one of their rooms, that they're trying to do like a studio room
Sure.
for at their church or something.
Sure.
And they asked me where I got the
Oh,
panels,
yeah.
which is interesting.
Yeah. Yep. I've got the big black things behind me are sound panels, and this is
I almost
actually,
got the wood ones. I
yeah,
almost got
these are
the
actually sound panels as
Yep.
well.
Mhm.
And these are in the new studio. In our last studio, we had those. Those were great. And you see those in a lot of recording studios.
Yep.
But it looks great. You guys, I'm so happy for you with the new offices. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. And I know you guys have been busy. Brad's been busy. You've been busy. So,
Mhm.
Jose, what we're talking about today, for our listeners and viewers out there, I know you want to hit upon what's going on. A lot of people, this week has been a rough one for the stock market. We're
Yep.
seeing some drops. And there are positives and negatives to that, depending on what your personal situation is, right? But we keep hearing about tariffs. We keep hearing about market fluctuation, and the headlines are starting to use the R word, recession. And
Mhm.
so help us make sense of this. And the people, just the minute you turn on the news or look at your phone or the internet, you're bombarded with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's even hard for myself because I have to look at it every day, right?
Sure.
But the one thing that, and I always explain the situations like this to our clients. You have to understand the backdrop and the reason and the story behind everything. Um, it's a little bit hard if you're not necessarily, an economist or a well-educated person in the specific topic to understand what actually is going on. But to build off of our last podcast where I was in it and we talked about tariffs, and I said in that podcast, what could happen, what what it would be like if the tariffs came back, because at the time they postponed it a month,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I said it's probably going to come back because they're going to have to do some more negotiating,
Yep.
and then hold and behold, they came back, right?
Yep.
And then they got pushed back for an extra month, technically going to start until April 2nd. But what was interesting about this last change was that, um, now the tariffs are not going to include goods that are inside of the trade deal. The what used to be NAFTA,
Yep.
and then now it's called USMAC. I think it's
Yep.
called. Um, so that was interesting, and I was surprised that that didn't make the markets go up. But I think right now well, that's what happened with from tariffs and what we talked about. Another thing that happened, which I also said that was pretty much was going to happen, was the Federal Reserve officially came out and they said we're waiting to see what's going on, what the end goal or what the end policy is going to be that this administration is bringing on to really figure out if we're going to increase, decrease, or keep as far as interest rates go. Which I said that's what was going on back then.
Hmm.
Since that last podcast, they officially came out with the statement and they said, "Yep, we're keeping things steady until we figure out what is actually going on." And as far as from fiscal policy and trade policy, um, another thing that has changed since then is immigration has slowed down quite a bit.
Yep.
So that's probably one of the reasons why this administration is more lenient and more willing to cut back on the tariffs or postpone them with Mexico, that was one of the biggest things that they wanted. Um, and Yeah, and all of that, and and it's really the way that the markets are reacting is because of the random movement. Well, to the market, that seems random, right? But the uncertainty. The markets don't like uncertainty.
Yeah, they don't. And this tariff situation, like you're saying, has
Mhm.
been it's been up in the air. Like, how is this all going to play out?
Right.
And it's just kind of every day there's a different story. Yes, on this 25% tariffs across the board. No, we're gonna postpone the tariffs for a month, and then we're nope, we're reenacting the tariffs,
Mhm.
25% across the board. Then, okay, not on cars, or okay, just on lumber, or not on lumber. So there's been a lot of back and forth and a lot of almost contradicting information, or just the it changes so rapidly. The market doesn't like that, the
Right.
rapid change, because what it is, like you said, it's uncertainty, and the market
Mhm.
never likes uncertainty, which why, as of this recording, which is on Monday, I just read the S&P 500 has its worst day of the year so far
Mhm.
today. But by the end of the day, who knows? Somebody might say something in the next hour. Somebody might sneeze in
Right.
China, or Trump might tweet something,
Mhm.
and then the markets go up, or the
Mhm.
Fed might say something and the markets go down. But today's data is not good.
Mhm.
So I know some people out there might panic,
Mhm.
and that leads me to ask, so when the markets are doing this and there's economic uncertainty, like the inflation numbers bumped back up a bit,
Mhm.
that news came out today, the market's way down, tariff uncertainty, people are hearing, people on the talking heads on TV are screaming, "The sky is falling." If you watch the
Yeah.
24-hour news networks, and if you read the newspapers or look at your phone at the news, so do you have clients because of all this? Do you have people calling you saying, "What do I do?" or panicking?
Actually, what's really amazing is a big change from where I used to come from, where I used to work at Morgan Stanley. Uh, when something like this was happening, because I was at Morgan Stanley in 23, and the first half of 23 wasn't pretty,
No.
right? And so I keep getting these phone calls back then, every week, almost every day. It felt like I was
Mhm.
getting calls of people panicking because
Sure.
people were reading the news. And by the way,
They're
the
worried about their
news make
investments.
right. And by the way, the news make money off of scaring you. By the way, just so you know, right?
Yeah, bad news. Yeah, it's like,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, they
So
don't make money off good news.
right,
They make money off the dirty laundry, not the
right.
clean laundry. Yeah.
So it's been really funny to see that now that I've joined Brad and we truly do holistic financial planning. That where I'm not getting these phone calls of people panicking about the
Hmm,
markets. Uh,
interesting.
I would say, and then trying to not to be over braggadocious about it,
Mhm.
that we truly try to understand someone's risk tolerance to and recommend investments that truly fit that risk tolerance. And I think that's what I would say that is the reason why people are not necessarily freaking out about it. And secondly, Gradient Investments offers some of the best portfolios to deal with market volatility, in my opinion.
Sure.
And that's I think what is the reason that people are really satisfied and not necessarily needing to call us to calm them down.
Yeah, because they don't have all their assets at risk unless they have a long time horizon, in which case
Yeah.
they shouldn't panic anyway because they have a lot of time.
Hmm.
So dips in the market or corrections aren't going to be necessarily a problem for them. But people in retirement often get concerned if all their money was in at risk and high risk stocks, things like that. But you, like you say, you have well balanced portfolios and a balance between what's at risk and what's not, right?
Right. And that's why and really reflecting back on my previous experience in the field and what other companies do out there when I was at my previous employer, that because they did really was one same thing, just stocks and bonds, stocks and bonds, stocks and bonds, right?
Sure, sure.
That
That's what they did.
because
Yeah,
because that's the only thing that they were allowed to have over there. That's why people were always so scared and
sure.
freaking out because they were always so subjective to whatever Federal Reserve said, whatever public policy was out there, and if the Congress was fighting and they shut down the government, that would affect their investments, which for the most part that they do, right? But because they were invested in such a way that it was just stocks and bonds, an unbalanced way, they were always in fear,
Yeah.
and they will always be calling us.
Hmm.
Um, So I take great pride that no one really is calling us
Yeah, yeah, that's
24/7.
good. But for our listeners out there, the message then I would assume for even the ones that aren't working with you, don't panic,
Mhm,
but definitely work with a trusted financial professional who's going to look at your personal situation and base where you're at on your own personal risk tolerance, your own personal goals, not on not using some rule of thumb or
mhm,
not just a stockbroker putting money into the stock market, not just an insurance salesman trying to sell you an insurance product, but just looking at all the options and how it's going to best fit for you, especially a retirement income plan, because the markets going up and down can affect people's retirement income. And I know we have a lot of listeners and viewers out there that's what they're concerned with. Either they're within 5 or 10 years of retirement, or maybe even a few years, or they're
mhm.
in retirement right now. And
Yeah.
so for those people, what would you say they should do? What if I'm in retirement right now and I see the markets going down,
Oh
or
my
there might
gosh.
be a recession?
If you are a person that is just about to retire or just started retirement, what I would recommend is really look at your investments and also take a look at who you have in your team as far as financial planning goes. Because you're at a stage in life where you can't afford to lose 30, 40, 50% of your savings. You have to have a well-balanced portfolio. You have to have a well planned out tax plan that made by a CPA, and also make sure that your estate planning is in play is in order with the help of an attorney, and make sure that all those pieces are at least being looked at.
Yeah.
But overall, not losing your money right when you most need it, which you would need it the most during retirement. Make sure you're invested properly
Yeah.
and that you don't lose your money just because Jerome Powell said something.
Yeah, maybe have some more in safety or safer
Yeah,
options. I know there are even, buffered portfolios out there where it
yeah,
buffers you against loss. There are other things like that. And I know you have so many options for people to look at for retirement income that that's great. And you have stocks, bonds, so many things, cash value life insurance. There are so many vehicles out there and ways to have your money spread out for retirement in a way that will allow you to weather the ups and downs of the market. And that's key, isn't it?
yeah. We got to make sure that you're well balanced and well invested for your risk tolerance, not a risk tolerance that someone assigned to you, which is what typically happens out there in these big brokerage firms. They have a cookie cutter. You fit into this bucket, so we're going to put you in that bucket. But there's the investments and your risk tolerance is way more complex than just putting you into a bucket where everyone else is. You have to have a well balanced portfolio that is made for you,
Yeah.
not already made, and then you just happen to fit that criteria.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, so what can our listeners do? They need a plan in place, right? And they need to work with a fiduciary who's going to look out for their best interest, which I know you do at Cooper Financial. So, how can our listeners out there get a hold of you?
They can give us a quick call at 888-390-5277 and just schedule a call and get to know each other. And you can ask your questions, your concerns, and maybe I can answer them all. And it's a free consultation. Maybe you after the consultation, you figure out, well, I'm okay,
Yep.
and I don't need anything. But
It'll just cost people their time. So
right,
it's not
right, that's
it's
the other
not
thing.
truly free because it costs them their time. The
All right,
the
semantics there.
compliance people like to say that, but there's no charge, there's
Yeah.
no obligation. It's just a matter of time to come in, sit down, and get a plan in place, right?
Yeah, and also you can check out our website, financialarmorshow.com, cooperfinancial.com, and that way you can also schedule an appointment.
Yeah, perfect. Well, a great show today. We covered a lot. Hopefully, this will help assuage people's fears and tamper that down a bit. Don't panic is the message, right?
Yes, don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. And what I like about working with you, Jose or Brad in the office there, is rather than do it yourself or say, "Oh, I'm gonna move this from this stock to this stock," or "This is going down, so I'm pulling my money out," you could make really costly mistakes, right?
Oh, yes.
And to avoid that, you want somebody who's going to take an educated approach, who's gonna look at your big picture from the outside, who isn't gonna let emotions come into it. And it starts with getting your own risk tolerance, filling out a little questionnaire to find out what your risk tolerance is, and then sitting down with you, Jose, or a member of the team there and saying, "Hey, what can I do? How can I weather the storm? Look where I'm at. Am I properly allocated?" And you might say, "Yeah, you're perfect. You're great." Or you might say, "Nope, you're going to need a plan in place. If you want to, with your longevity, if you want to plan and not run out of money or not make expensive mistakes, you're going to need to make some adjustments and move some things." So
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. How can our listeners get a hold of you to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation?
Phone number is 888-390-5277.
All right. Well, great show today. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Jose, before we go?
No, just that, again, going back to having the plan, it's, us if after the first appointment, us as a fiduciary, if you have something that's good, if you're already set, then we'll let you know. And
Yeah.
if you're not, we'll tell you what's the problem, what the issue is, and tell you why.
Yeah.
As a fiduciary, that's our
And if
duty.
at that point they want to work with you, great. And you'll
Yeah,
explain up front, you're open about your fee base. If you want to
yeah,
become a client, here's what it costs. If you don't, no problem. And there's no obligation. I
nope.
really like that. Jose, great show today. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our host, Jose Rodriguez.